Test, 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 test. Okay. Hello, everybody out there. How are you guys doing this happy Sunday? Happy Sunday to you all. I am Max Voltage, as you all know. For those people that might be here for the first time, I am just a miner like you guys, just sharing my journey, things I've learned along the way. I guess the only difference about me is I like to go and do deeper dives into certain subjects and figure things out a little bit deeper in knowledge than others that cover things on the surface. So to start out, I was going to go over the 240 volt installation, and then we'll get into the three GPUs, about how I managed to purchase three GPUs at once. Then going over the tax issue that actually came up in a Q&A with Red Panda this morning, and I wanted to cover what I was talking about in chat. And then lastly, we'll go over 1559. Again, Red Panda covered. He had asked me for some information, and I did some calculations and figured a few things out. So I'll be going over what I learned there as well. So let's start out with the 240 volt installation. And actually, to first start out, make sure you guys can all hear me okay. So just somebody give me a thumbs up or some type of indication that you guys can hear me and that the sound is good. Yep, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. Alrighty, well, let me show you some pictures of my new 240 volt circuit. Oh, that's not the right one. There we go. So basically, mutual friend recommended this guy. Talked to him a little bit beforehand, said what I was trying to do. So this was the start of it, basically him lining up where I wanted the box to be. And I'll show you exactly in relation where it is to the circuit panel. So he's basically just lining it up, cutting open the hole, leaving a few divots on the outside for the screws to go through. This is basically the setup. He's just running it directly below the panel, so I don't have to remove any of the drywall and the walls or anything like this. This is my basement, my nice messy basement. Anyway, so we'll get into some other pictures here, but if you can see on the bottom right, there's one circuit, like one single pole circuit available. And up at the top, it looks like there are two slots, so enough room for a double pole. I'll show you later on that, unfortunately, with the pictures, we thought it was going to be able to do that, but it cannot. The circuit panel was built so that the bus bar that it was going to click into, they were not long enough or meant to click into this top spot. So let me go further along. So here he is fishing the wire and starting to fish the conduit. So there's the conduit going up into there. So basically it's just a flexible conduit he put into the wall. And because of the short length, it is within code. So that wasn't a problem. In my part of the country, conduit is required. So we can't run Romex in order to stay within code. And then running the wire for it. And one of the troubles he had was there was something in the wall that he had to get around. So it was a matter of which side he was going to go on for that one thing in the wall. So he managed to figure out which side of it to go on, which was the far side, the one closest to the insulation. And there's the final run with the conduit basically there, and he's connected it into the box. You can see the little piece of flexible conduit down there. And this is the top spot. I don't know if you can tell from this picture. I have another picture that's a better one. But those two pieces that the double pole breaker would click into, they're not big enough to hold it. So this evidently was never meant to be a spot for a circuit. So, and there he is. He's basically, at this point, we haven't really figured that out yet. So he's basically putting in the bottom side of it, screwing in the outlet. So basically L6 30R receptacle is what was installed, the one that clicks in. There's the final install. So what we ended up having to do was we had to move some things around and combine one of two circuits into one. So what we ended up doing back when I had my basement finished about 15 years ago, one of the things we had the electricians do was put in a separate circuit for the outdoor lights. At that point, outdoor lights were not LEDs, or at least not in great numbers at that point. So our outdoor lights around Christmas pulled a lot of juice. Well, now everything's LED. We've switched over everything to LED, so we really don't need a separate circuit for that because it pulls much, much less power. So what we ended up doing was putting that circuit back on the living room and dining room circuit like it was before. So that opened up an additional slot. But as far as what to combine, this was what surprised me. Evidently, you can't just combine any circuit. You have to make sure that they're on the same bus bar, or this was the part I didn't really understand. And honestly, I was so excited about getting this thing installed that I really wasn't paying that close of attention. So anyway, he was going through it in his mind. He was basically saying, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? And when he mentioned the one outside, I was like, you know what, that would work perfectly because this is why we did it in the past. We don't need it for that anymore. So that's what he ended up doing. He moved one of the circuits, or two of the circuits here, one of the circuits here. Let me think about this for a second. There were two circuits here. He moved them both, but one of these was the outdoor light. So he switched it to the other side, and then the other one got moved to the bottom of the right side, and then opening up space for this. So without an electrician, I would not have been able to figure any of that out without a lot more research. Probably could have figured it out, but this was the reason why I hired somebody that was willing to do it on the side. It cost me less than $300 to get it done, and I have the peace of mind knowing that it was done correctly with somebody who has all the right tools, because I certainly don't have all the right tools to do electrical work like this. And lastly, this is what I was talking about. You can see these are really short up here, so not enough for the breaker to clip into. And I believe it's most likely by design because they don't want something there. I'm sure because it's clipped into the main breaker, that would kind of defeat the purpose of the main breaker, now thinking about it after the fact. So anyway, so I am very happy to be a proud owner of having 240 volt circuit. Works out really, really well. And I now have a bright and shiny new PDU downstairs that I have everything plugged into. So definitely makes things a lot easier, and I've got all my rigs consolidated currently in the basement. So any questions about that? I'm guessing probably not, because that's pretty basic stuff. Yeah, Square D, I'm guessing. I took a picture of it. He bought it. And it's funny, actually, he got there and he's like, yeah, I forgot to buy the stuff. So he left, came back. It was no big deal. Totally super cool guy. We talked a little bit of crypto. He was kind of curious about it. So definitely it was enjoyable to have him there to put it in. So anyway, so that's all with that. So let's get into what everybody's probably here for, or most people are here for, is how did I get 3 GPUs? So first off, I opened the box to one. In fact, let me get that. So I opened the box to one to get the nice, bright and shiny GPU. One thing that struck me about this is that it smells like new sneakers. I was like, open it up and I'm like, what is that smell? And I smelled it. I'm like, it smells like new sneakers. And considering how the bots for sneakers are very, very similar to the bots for GPUs, I just found that kind of a funny similarity that it smelled like sneakers. So anyway, I've only opened up the one so far. I'm planning on installing these later on today, but there you have it. Bright and shiny. No, I do not have gloves on. So I'm guessing you guys have all seen them, so I'm not going to bore you to death with the 3060 Ti, but it does have the blow through style, and then the front fan. The front fan actually blows through the top, so it actually works really well how I'm planning on putting it in, which is a with the hangers from Chump Change. So I've got those coming. They're due to get here on Thursday. But my plan is to actually change from that, basically remove the hangers that I currently have on my LHR cards and going to put them on these cards. Since the LHR cards are the EVGA 2-fan models, which are like super small. So I will just probably hang those temporarily from the rack with zip ties until I can get those hangers to come in. So should be here relatively, like I said, they'll be here Thursday. Hopefully USPS surprises me by getting them here a little bit earlier. But yeah, the plan is to try to see if I can get 10 GPUs on a motherboard that only has 5 PCIe slots. So, hopefully if I can make that work, I will probably have a video on that as well as to what my experience was with that. Curious to see not only can I do it, but will it run stably, so without crashing. So we shall see what happens with that. So as far as the story goes, last week there was an announcement by Best Buy saying that they were going to have GPUs available at, and here are all the stores that it was going to be available at. I saw that and basically followed anything that was related to that on Discord and found out a whole bunch of information. One was, these were the stores. These were reported number of people in line at these stores, as well as if the store was reporting how many cards they had and sharing that with people in line, that was also posted in the spreadsheet. So the interesting part about this is I live in the Chicago area. I've not been shy about that. I didn't say exactly where, but Chicago area is very big. We got 9 million people that live in this area. So at any rate, so I live in the Chicago area, and the last time they did an in-store drop, there were no stores in the Chicago area that had a drop. 0. The closest stores were Champaign and a store in Indiana and a store in, I think it was South Bend, if I remember correctly, or I don't know. It was in Northwest Indiana, as well as one store in Wisconsin. So we're all talking 2.5 hours away were the closest stores. So I wasn't about to go do that. This time there was one in Downers Grove, but I'm like, again, 9 million people. There's going to be a ton of people in line. It happens to be in the adjoining town to a micro center. So people are very in tune, especially around that area, that what it's going to take to get a graphics card. So I knew that there were going to be a ton of people in line, and sure enough, there were 130, I think, at like 5 a.m. or something. I mean, so there were a lot of people in line. So there was a question on whether or not you'd actually get a graphics card if you went there. And with all that said, I couldn't go there anyway. I had to go to work. So there was just no way. I had to be to work at 7 a.m. They were giving out the graphics card sheets at 7:30. So what's interesting is my wife was traveling to a different part of the country to go visit my son. And she was going to be less than, 20 minutes away from the Best Buy. And I was keeping an eye on it. and they were supposed to have over 150 or more cards available. And I was watching the number of people in line, and the number of people in line was very low the night before. So I spoke to my wife, was like, hey, would you be able to head over there like around 6 a.m.? And she was like, no, sorry, I can't. I got something planned. My son had some car issues, so they were dropping off the car. He needed to be at work. But she said, well, we could head over to Best Buy. You know, my son could drop her off and then see what happens. And then he could come back a couple hours later to pick her up. So she gets to the Best Buy at 10 after 8. So I'm thinking, yeah, she might get one. I'll be happy with one. You know, I wasn't even thinking about multiples at that point. So she gets in line. They've already handed out all the tickets, so there's no tickets. So she's walking up with other people that showed up after 7:30, having no idea whether or not they're actually going to be able to get cards. So she walks up. They say, what are you looking for? She said 3060 Ti, and said, yes, we have some. Go there. Go ahead and make your purchase. Great. And actually handed her a ticket at the door. So she texts me and says, hey, I was able to get a card. Do you want me to get back in line? I'm like, sure. Yeah, that's fine. That'll work. So she gets back in line and gets another one the exact same way. So she's got two at this point. She's like, do you want me to get back in line again? I'm like, sure. I have no idea if she's going to be able to get one. But at that point, they had shut down the line, and then they were going to be letting people in when the store opened up. So they came out just before the store was to open up and said, who's here to buy regular stuff? Who's here to buy GPUs? And of course, so they made them into two separate lines, let people in. So then they started letting people in to get GPUs. And she walks up, and I remember she was dropped off. So she's holding two GPUs. There's no hiding the fact that she's already bought two. So she walks up. Guy says, how many GPUs you got there? She's like, two. Well, what are you looking for? 3060 Ti? Okay, here you go. And hands the sheet of paper and starts to walk away. The next guy walks up, you know, as she's leaving, and he tells the guy, look, I told you not to come back. You already have three. So, and the funny thing about it was my wife recognized him. And when he came earlier in the day, he was dressed completely differently. So he was obviously trying to show himself in a different light, you know, with like business casual dress on, when in the morning he was just wearing a t-shirt and shorts. So obviously it didn't work, but it's to me, that's the funny part of the story. Look, I told you not to come back. Go away. Anyway, but this told my wife that I'm not getting four. So she didn't even try to get four. That's why she ended at the three. But yeah, she walked up, did the other one, and that's how she walked away with three GPUs. So yeah, I was extremely shocked that she was able to get three GPUs. As I've said, I have the best wife ever for agreeing to go do it. I mean, she feeds my my addiction, my my hobby. So definitely extremely happy. Looking forward to getting those up and running. Pretty much at this point, I'm probably maybe going to buy a couple 3070 Ti's when that comes up in the EVGA queue, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't know what. I'm just kind of done at this point, especially for the summer. It's a little hard to keep the house cool. I'm able to do it, but it does heat up during the day, even with the air conditioning running. So it's running full time. I have allergies, so there's no way to not have the windows closed and the air on during the summer. So at any rate, that's my little story about the three GPUs. So in my mind, the way that I look at this is try. You know, don't take anybody's word for what is going to work and what's not going to work, because the things that people haven't talked about are the things that may be the most likely to work. I mean, when I told people that my wife went back 3 times, they're like, what? Best Buy allows that? Evidently, you go up there like you don't know any better, and because we didn't, And, if they had said no, then we would have walked away. But they didn't. They allowed her to buy 3, and that was it. So it's unfortunate that my son had the meeting, because it was actually his day off, but he had a meeting with HR about his benefits. So not that kind of meeting with HR, thankfully. Anyway, so if he was there, he would have bought one for himself, and I probably would have gotten 2 more. So, but hey, I'm not complaining that, oh gosh, I could have gotten 5. No, I'm extremely happy having gotten 3. And so anyway, that's what that story is. So if you have an idea of how you think you can get GPUs, don't doubt yourself. Try it. What harm does it do? I mean, obviously, you don't want to go out and steal anything. I mean, I'm not saying to break the law, but I'm saying is that if you have an idea in your mind, you're like, well, nobody else has thought of that. Nobody else, there was only one other person that my wife knows of that was getting multiple cards, thinking about going back in line. Most people were just buying one and not even giving it a second thought, assuming that Best Buy wouldn't let them buy more than one. So, yeah. So, I've heard TechShinji mention a number of times, look, you got to try. You have to try. And in this case, everyone who was in line at her store got a card. Everyone at TechShinji's store got a card. And from what I could tell, even the Downers Grove store, as close as it was, anybody who wanted a card could have gotten a card. What's interesting is the 3060 Ti, which is what we thought would be the most, the 3080 is going to be probably going to be the hardest one to get. But the 3060 Ti was still there at the end, and we still don't know whether there were more left after she got her 3rd one. So again, don't make assumptions. You got to try. You got to put in the effort. So anyway, that's my little story about that. Let me see if there's any questions about that. Oh yeah, and the nice thing about it was this was in a state that had lower sales tax than Illinois. Of course, that pretty much could be just about anywhere since the sales tax in Illinois is pretty high. But yeah, I was able to pay a little bit less due to the sales tax down there being less. So $400 a card plus tax. Yeah, I'll take it. Let's see here. Let me see what other comments have been made. Well, let me actually go through everybody, see who else is here. So thank you all for showing up. John Germain, Joseph Upton. I saw that Pearl was here. She was the one who had questions about the taxes, so I'm going to cover that next. Lasab, Red Fox Crypto, Avengers 34, Robert Dewis, Apples, CC, Teaspoon. So again, thank you guys all for showing up. Mastermind Crypto, TechShinji. If I missed anybody, I apologize. All right, let me look to see if there are any questions here. Yes, she enables me. Exactly. Let's see here. So the question. Yeah, if anybody wants to ask me a question, please at me in the chat. It'll make it a lot easier to find. As far as I know, none of the Founders Editions, except for the 3070 Ti and the 3080 Ti, I think those are the only 2 of the Founders Editions that are LHR. Not saying that as absolute fact, but that's what I was surprised with these cards. I wasn't sure if they were going to be LHR or not. And I still haven't tried them, but everything I can see on the box doesn't say anything about LHR. The model number doesn't give it any indication that it's LHR. So if they were LHR, they should have had one of the 2 on the box. And an article that I recently read about that was that there are still manufacturers, AIBs, that are not doing LHR cards. We all know EVGA is doing LHR cards, but I'm not sure which of the others that are doing LHR cards. Whether Asus is doing them, I think Gigabyte is doing them, I believe, but I don't think, not as far as I know, Zotac hasn't put out any LHR cards. But again, I don't know for sure on all that. I do know that EVGA, because I have 3 EVGA LHR cards, I do know they've kind of, from what I can tell, gone all in with this LHR, with the LHR models, that they are in fact only selling LHR at this point. So we shall see. So as far as that's a great question, Michigan Basic Maniac. So worth it expanding at this time. Here is how I decided to buy these 3. So right now, we know that, and I'll go into 1559 in a bit, but that we're going to see a reduction in mining profits a little bit. So, with that assumption in mind, well, with all this isn't financial advice, and nothing is absolute certain going forward. Who knows where mining profits? Crypto could fall, obviously hurting our profits. Crypto could go up, helping our profits. So we just don't know. So all we have to go on is where things are currently and do calculations based upon that to see where we might be going forward. So in my estimation, my guess is that Ethereum is going proof of stake sometime, I'm guessing, near the end of March. That's my guess. So at this point, I'm thinking we have about 8 months to mine Ethereum before everything, pardon my French, goes to shit. So, and that's what it will go to, in my opinion, when that happens, because you're going to have all this hash rate that has to find a place to go. And that's what's going to initially happen until we have, I guess, what I would call the purge, where some people say, I can't mine profitably anymore. I'm going to sell my hardware. There will be plenty of people that will just continue to mine because they like it and they enjoy it, and that's okay. But overall, people that where it's not profitable, they will either sell or just flat out turn off their rigs until it is profitable again. So we'll have to wait for that shakeout to happen to figure out, how profitable it will be in the long term, after that happens. So I'm shooting for that 8 months. So in those 8 months, I figure that the payback on a 3060 Ti, well, you can go through the calculations, but let me actually pull up what to mine. Let me share my screen again. Hang on. Just got to move this over here. Okay. So there's what to mine. And I'm sorry if the number of tabs I have open triggers anybody. But anyway, so right now I have it up as, because I accidentally did the 3060 Ti and I couldn't, at the time I couldn't figure out how to rename it. So I just left it and then I named this one 3060 Ti non-LHR. So this one, I just have a couple of things in here. So I've got my Ergo, my Kapow, which is Raven, and Autolycos is Ergo, as well as ETH hash. So I basically just have those 3 in here loaded. There might be a few others that might be close, but those are really actually, I guess I did update my Kryptonite GPU as well. So anyway, that is basically the ones I have updated. Oh, interesting. I should update my ETC one as well, but I haven't updated that one yet. Anyway, so looking at it, so this is, in fact, let me just change it to 13060 Ti. Let me just add one really quick. Okay, and then let's just do this. Take that out. Okay, so this is close enough. So right now you have a 13060 Ti basically making $4 a day. Really? $4 a day? Huh. I think that's a lot higher today than it's been. Very interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, so I was looking more, oh, there we go. That's more like it. Oh, I see. I hadn't recalculated since I clicked it. Yeah, I was thinking $3 a day. So that's much closer. So $3 a day, it cost me $400. Let's say it's closer to 450 with tax. So at 450, that is 150 days or 5 months. So I will get payback on this in 5 months. Well, I believe we're going proof of stake March of next year in 8 months. So I will break even on this before we go to proof of stake. Plus, I still have the value of the card. So if I do want to sell it, I still have that value. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, it goes down to $1 a day. So it's going to take 450 days to pay back. Well, in the next 8 months, that's $240 that I would make at $1 a day. Well, 240 minus 450. Do I still have $200 worth of value in that graphics card? Yeah, I do. In my opinion, I would still be worth $200. So even if it goes down to $1 a day, I would still be able to break even on that card by selling that card. So that is how I'm evaluating whether or not I'm expanding. If I can break even on it before we go to proof of stake, I'm good with it. So with that said, I don't think I'm going to be getting any more cards at $400 a pop, and any more of the NVIDIA Founders Editions. But if I did have the opportunity, I'd probably in the next 2 months, I might pick up a few more. But again, because of the heat that's being generated in my basement, I might not. I don't know. I evaluate each one of these at the time. I'm also getting near my limit as far as what I can add to my basement because I don't have much capacity left on the rigs I have. So I would have to build out another rig, which again is more cost that I would have to take into account with the break even. So there's a lot of things that go into it. It's not a simple calculation. There's a lot of things that go into it. But depending on what your situation is, add up your costs, make an assumption as to when proof of stake is going to happen and how much money you can make with whatever graphics card you get in that period of time between now and proof of stake. So, and keep up to date as to what the latest estimate is for proof of stake. It might happen at the end of this year. I don't think so. Tim Biko in the interview that me, Son of Attack, Red Panda, and Serpent were on, he clearly stated that it could be the end of the year, which is really the end of November. That's what they said was really the latest. And so we're looking third week in November would be if it was going to happen, that's about the time, third to fourth week, before we start hitting Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So yes, that would be highly unlikely in based on everything I've heard. So it's just a matter of when during the first quarter would you make that assumption that they would make that change. I think, especially based upon what they've done with 1559, they're being very careful about it. It was originally supposed to be mid-July. They delayed it until the first week of August. So proof of stake is going to be an even bigger change. So I think they're going to be extra cautious about that as well. So we'll just have to wait and see. Just keep track of it. We can't necessarily predict the future. Also depends on whether or not there is a threat, some type of imminent threat. That there was one guy that had come out and said, hey, I can do an attack doing this on the network. If that was viewed as an imminent threat, yeah, the Ethereum development group would to put everything in it and might take some risks just to make sure that it isn't attacked in any way. So anyway, that's a little bit, like I said, I kind of dive a little deep as far as that goes. So thanks, Chump Change. If you're selling, I'm buying. All right, well, I will keep that in mind if I do decide to sell, but no, there's no plan to sell. When it does go to shit when POS happens, I may shut some things off for a little bit, but I'm not planning on selling because I believe mining will come back when everything shakes out. It may not be making a ton of profit, but it will be enough to cover my power plus make a little bit of profit. I'm lucky in the fact that my power costs are less than most of the rest of the country. So I know that I can be profitable longer than others. Plus, a good portion of my mining rigs are 3000 series cards, which are more efficient. So I've got that as well. So anyway, we shall see. Okay, so CCS, any words about ETC change of algo before ETH goes proof of stake? Either I'm not up to date on ETC, um, or I just haven't heard. Anyway, I know that Red Panda mentioned going to SHA-256, I think was the algorithm ETC would be going to. The reason why they initially talked about going to SHA-256 was because of all the security issues they had. Well, once they instituted MES, a lot of that conversation went away. So I don't really understand the driving factor as to changing ETC to SHA-256. So I don't know. I would have to look into that a bit more. I have not done much research on ETC other than when Chump Change asked me to do the Magneto, looking into that a while back. Michigan Basic Maniac, yeah, your electric is 16 to 22 cents. Ouch. Yeah, mine is about 9 cents all in after taxes. So I have solar on my house, that, and I also have hourly pricing. So on a day like today, when it's like super hot out and the electricity is high, well, I'm getting most of my electric from my solar. And if I'm generating excess, which I do at this time of day quite often, actually from noon, from about 10 to 1 generally is when I actually generate excess. But at those times of day when I'm generating excess, they're paying me the going rate. So everything all in, they're paying me if energy or power price goes to 10 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents a kilowatt hour, that's what they're paying me, along with the distribution, because I'm not having to charge for distribution for things I'm not getting. So I have some advantages here, so that's one of the reasons why my power cost is lower. Typical power cost all in the Chicago area with ComEd is 12.6 cents, and I'm at 9.2, so I save quite a bit. And obviously, having solar taking a good chunk of the power out, like this month, I should generate anywhere from 800 megawatts to, 800 kilowatts to 1 megawatt this month. So it definitely takes a nice chunk out of my power costs. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, Michigan Basic Maniac. Yeah, it certainly helps. I don't know if you have hourly pricing up there. Illinois is pretty lucky in that. I know a lot of people get nervous about it, but I've had it over 6 years, and there's been 2 months that have been slightly higher than the standard. And I'm talking minuscule. I mean, like we're talking a buck or two. And it was always in the winter. So the amount I save each year far outweighs the few months where I'm a little bit higher. And what's interesting is during the summer, it's always lower, always, even with the cost being high. The other thing with the solar that really helps is the fact that there's a demand charge that gets calculated on the highest demand hours of the summer. While with solar, it is that demand charge always ends up being lower. So last year, my monthly demand charge was like $17. Since the beginning of June, it's now $5. Now that'll probably change next year because I added a whole bunch of mining rigs at that point. So I know my demand charge is going to be higher next year anyway, but still it'll be lower, much lower than it would have been anyway. So anyway, I didn't intend to go in on that subject, but I appreciate you guys bringing it up. Yeah, so actually, Michigan Basics, sorry. You bring up a good point and I know Chump Change has brought this up. I don't know if Chump Change has a video, but if he does, please let me know. Or if anybody has a video on this, let me know. But you can schedule, if you're using Hive, you can schedule your mining. So you could actually schedule it to turn off from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. And have it, so turn it off at 2 p.m. and then have it turn on at 7 p.m. So keep that in mind. That probably could be a pretty good thing to do as we get to the point where profitability becomes more marginal, where maybe at 22 cents an hour you're not profitable anymore, but maybe at 16 cents an hour you are. So keep that in mind. All right, well, let me yeah, I do. Okay, hang on a second. Let me see if I can figure out how to make him a mod. All right, Chump, you are a moderator. Go ahead and post your link to your video on that scheduling feature. So thanks for that. I appreciate that. All right, well, let me go into the taxes issue, and this was actually brought up by Pearl Rival, so on the Red Panda stream this morning. So we were talking about different strategies of what to do when proof of stake happens. What do you do? And I brought up the point of just now, even mine what is the most profitable. Oh, I remember what he was talking about. Red Panda was saying, I don't know about Ergo. I'm not mining it. I'm not really sure about the project. So he was basically saying it didn't sound like he was mining it. And he was having some question about mining it. So that's when I typed in the chat, well, I mine what's the most profitable and then sell that coin and buy whatever coin I believe in to hold long term. So for instance, Ergo, I don't disagree with Red Panda. I don't know where it's going. So I am actually selling it and buying ADA. That is what my current strategy is. Again, not financial advice. I am just sharing my journey. I'm just sharing what I'm doing. So, and again, if I do that, it's whatever the current price is. I don't really have much risk except any price fluctuations within the period of time I have between payouts. Because once I have the payout, I am doing that. I might accumulate 2 payouts possibly. So we're talking like maybe $20 worth, something like that. So nothing of a great value that if Ergo were to completely go away, I'd be going, oh man, I lost $20 worth of Ergo because it somebody said it was a scam or whatever. I'm not saying it's a scam. I'm just saying that if somebody did, I actually somewhat believe in the project. I just don't know enough about it to say I want to commit to it. I think things that are aligned with ADA, I think ADA is going places, and I know Ergo is somewhat aligned with that. I haven't done extensive research on that, but at this point, yes, I am mining both Ergo, alternatively, and Ravencoin with my LHR cards. When I'm mining Ergo, I have it going to an exchange. I use Trade Ogre, selling it into BTC because it only has that, and then selling it from BTC into ADA, and then transferring the ADA. And the reason why I'm transferring into ADA before I transfer it as opposed to just transferring the BTC is because ADA has a lower transaction cost to transfer it. So it keeps the cost lower. And that's what I want to hold anyway. So I'm mining mostly Ethereum. I have a good bag of BTC, and I want to increase my bag of ADA when I'm not mining Ethereum. So that is my strategy. So that's what brought up this. And then somebody came back, and Pearl came back and says, yeah, but there's a tax effect to that. And that's where I was in disagreement. There's really not a tax effect to that if you are following the guidelines of the IRS. So when and I've looked extensively at this as to what the laws were. Again, I'm not an accountant. This is not financial advice. So, but when I did my taxes this last year was the year that I did more mining than other years. So I really had to take a much closer look at how I did my taxes this year. So one of the things I figured out was that mining profits are income. They are income. They are a income-based event. You have mined this and it's given you this money. Now you have a cost against that. Your power, your cost of equipment, all of this would go against that. So as far as doing taxes, you have to account for that income. But how do you account for that income when it is in something that's not in US dollars? And this is where I struggled. And what I basically figured out is that every time your mining pool gives you a payout, that is an income event, and you should be accounting for that in your taxes. So when that is paid out at that time, it's what the price is of that crypto in US dollars is the income at that point. Now, that determines the basis of that asset. So let's say, for instance, that you mined Ethereum and it was $1,000 when you got your payout. So now your basis on that, so let's say you mined one Ethereum. Let's keep the math really simple. So let's say you mined one Ethereum, and it was $1,000 at the time. So it's $1,000 of income. But the cost per Ethereum at that point is 1,000. So that's your basis. So now let's say that the price is where it is, around 2,000. Well, let's just say 2,000. And you go, well, you know what? I want to sell. And you go to sell that one Ethereum. Well, you're not taxed on the entire 2,000. You're only taxed on the basis difference at that point. So it's the difference between 1,000 and 2,000 is 1,000. So you're only taxed on another 1,000. So you're not double taxed. And that was what had come up, was that there's double taxation. There's no double taxation because you have the income piece of it that determines your basis, and then the investment transaction, which is your income or your gain after the fact. Now, there's a whole bunch of things that come into play here as to how you're taxed on that based upon the length of time you've held that asset. Right now, the IRS is handling cryptocurrency just like an investment. So that is the guidance that they have given. Now, how it's being reported by exchanges and all that kind of stuff, irregardless, it's just like if you were earning money as an independent contractor, you're still supposed to claim that income. I know a lot of people don't, but if it's not reported to the IRS, but technically you're supposed to be claiming that income. So in this case, this is what technically you're supposed to be doing. I'm not making any judgments. I'm just telling you that this is the investigation that I did, and this is how I am handling the taxes. So again, there's the income piece that I include as part of my business income, and then there's the investment income that is part of my investment transaction. So again, they go actually on two different parts of the of my taxes, business and investment. So that is my understanding, and that is how I'm handling things personally. I don't know if there's any questions out there. The last part of that is, how do you keep track of your basis? That was the kind of the biggest kicker. So I did some analysis on some websites that do crypto taxes, and I ended up doing research on a bunch, and I went to Coinly, which I have a link in the description below. Yes, I will get $20, just like you would get $20 off. I get $20 in credit towards next year, just being completely transparent. But I did analysis. I don't have that link because I'm getting a kickback or anything like that. I did the analysis, and for me, with the number of transactions that I was doing, and I didn't want to go with like a super small company that I didn't really hear anything about, and they didn't have any reviews or anything like that. I wanted to go with one of the ones that had been around for a while. So that's why I chose Coinly. It was about $20 to $50 less than the next closest guy, just because of how their packages were. And so that's why I'm going with them. So anyway, so I used them last year. It worked phenomenally. I struggled at first. I'm like, I need to get my taxes done. How am I going to figure out these bases? And I'm going to go through each individual transaction. Well, I had way too many transactions. It would have taken me forever to get it done. So anyway, so I used Coinly, and it worked great. It was very easy to complete my taxes once I made the decision to use Coinly. The other thing to keep in mind, and this is one of the reasons why I use mining pools where you can set what your payout's going to be. This is the one complaint I have about 2 miners, that you can't set your payout. So, like if you're mining Firo, which is what I was doing at the beginning of last year, which is one of the reasons why I had a ton of transactions, you can't set greater than zero point 0.1 Firo as your payout. So you could be getting multiple payouts a day over 365 days. That would be a big pain in the butt to try to do that manually. Or even with something like Coinly, they have limits on the number of transactions you can have in a year. But because of that, I had like 850 transactions, something like that last year. So yeah, it makes things where you have to pay for a more expensive service really for no reason. So I usually try to raise my payouts to a level where I'm getting no more than 1 to 2 payouts a week. That's usually where I have that comfort factor of like, okay, my next one's coming soon. I like to see that constant increase, but I don't need the multiple a day. So when I'm mining Raven, right now I've got my Raven one set up at like 500, while the standard I think it 2 miners I think is like 10 Raven, something like that. So anyway, just something else to keep in mind. All right. So Eric, my understanding, again, not financial advice, is that you can not depreciate, but you can take the entire deduction in the current year. That is my understanding. I would say consult your own accountant to get what they say. There may be accountants out there that may suggest doing a yearly depreciation as a better way overall to do your taxes, because you can more average it out, especially depending on what your tax bracket is at the time. If you're in a lower tax bracket where you're doing this, where taking that in the entire year wouldn't have as great of an effect when if you were in a higher tax bracket. So there's a lot of things that go into that, but I believe you can do it either way. That's my understanding, at least. Yeah, some goblin loser. Yeah, just be prepared for it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to in crypto, is just be prepared. Be prepared for the ups. Be prepared for the downs. In both crypto and mining, they are going to happen. I started in crypto the middle of 2019. It wasn't great, but I got into it because I was interested in it, and it was a hobby, and I was like, oh, this is cool, and I'm having fun with it. I'm meeting new people. All of these things went into it. So for me, it wasn't all about the money. I wouldn't have been mining if it wasn't profitable, but it wasn't very profitable. But yeah, so just be in it for the right reasons. Let me see if there was anything else on this particular keep track of trades. Covered Coinly, and yeah, and I covered that. Okay, so any other questions about that before I move on to 1559? And if you did post a question, feel free to repost it, but please make sure you tag me if you have any questions. I always think these are going to be like really short. Like I don't have much to say, and then it ends up going like, before I know it, it's an hour, almost in an hour now. So anyway, yeah, let's talk about the depressing topic of 1559. Anyway, so it is what is going to happen in 10 days. No way around it. No reason to cry over spilled milk. We as a community tried to influence what was going on. Myself, BBT, and a number of others in the community really did try to see what we could do to ease the pain a bit. But it's funny how things work out, because really at the time we were like, oh my gosh, this is gonna decrease our payouts by 50% or more. So now, as we looked at it, and I did the calculations, we're looking at about 16.3% to 16.7%. The reason why, so the calculation comes out to 16.7, but if Ethermine is increasing their payouts for MEV from 80% to 100%. So therefore, It goes down to 16.3% if you're mining on Ethermine. So again, not good. We obviously don't want this to happen, but it is going to happen. It's just a matter of being prepared. So if we look, as I still have up on the screen, what are we looking at making on Ethereum? We're making just over $3 currently. Well, you take 17% off of, about 17% off of that. You're looking at about 50, little over 50 cents, and that puts it below Ergo currently. Now this varies quite a bit, but we are going to see some variation in and this is based on 24 hours, so not just based on current. But we are going to see some variability in this. So again, having a plan and deciding what you want to do. If you're saying, well, I'm going to move over to NiceHash and I'm just going to let them choose what is going to be the most profitable and go to, or any other profit switching program and do that, that's a strategy. That's being prepared. It's deciding what you're going to do based upon what is happening with the mining market. In other cases, you may say, no, I'm staying with HiveOS and I am going to continue to mine X until I drive it into the ground, or I'm going to look at what to mine and look at basically whether or not you want to base your decisions based upon current, 24 hours, 3 days, or 7 days. Right now, I've been kind of wavering between 3 days and 24 hours. I will probably in order for me to get away from Ethereum in things I'm mining, I'm going to look at the 3-day average myself. If the 3-day average of something else is more profitable, I'll move. So, but just keep in mind that you need to take into account, and again, these aren't perfect numbers. Like I know Autolycos on my 3060 Ti's that I have ours is like 170 at 130 watts, not 155 with the overclocks I have. So this is actually a little bit conservative. So that's where I would look at. Oh, I hate it when it does that. Why does it? Good old what's a mine. You have to go back and then do that, and then it comes up. Anyway, so yeah, if you look at it here where I have more realistic numbers, because these are actual calculated numbers, then I would base it upon my whole rig or specific cards of a rig. So anyway, that's what I'm personally doing. Let's see. Oh, welcome, Anonymous Miner. Thanks for coming. I already mentioned Subgoblin Loser. So Anonymous Miner, why does Ethermine need to do that if they have a pool fee of 1%? Where does that go? So every pool needs to make money. That's obviously that 1% is where they make their money generally. Now, what Ethermine did was when they initially came out with the MEV, they said, well, this percentage is for development, this percentage is for we're going to send to the Ethereum Foundation. They had like all these different things that they were doing with that 20%. They were transparent about it. Well, the latest announcement said, well, they're taking all that other stuff away that they were donating to something else or to the development or whatever, and they were now going to 80% to 100% payout on the MEV. So I'm not making judgment on whether or not Ethermine should have been doing that or not. I'm just saying that that's the fact. That is what is happening. 1% with how much mining they have is a lot of money, obviously. Did they need more of that for extra development? I can't say. I don't run their business. So I honestly don't know. As far as how you're going to be getting payouts with Ethereum, did they need to not cover the cost of the payouts? Yeah, they've got a business plan. That 1% is in their business plan. And now with 1559, they would have to cover all of the payments out of the 1%, which would be significant. It would hurt their bottom line. I mean, they're a business like everybody else. So Yeah, so it makes sense that they were having to switch to making us pay for the payouts because they can no longer just include them in their own transactions with no fee. That's what they could do before 1559. With 1559, every transaction has to pay this base fee, no matter who is mining it. With before, there, whatever that transaction fee was, uh, Ethereum didn't have to pay any of that because it was their block. So they didn't have to pay themselves for the block, and they passed along the savings. Now they weren't getting paid for any of those transactions, whatever that going transaction fee was, because they were including their own transaction, which would bring down the overall profitability of Ethermine. So it's kind of six of one, half dozen of the other. I actually like what they're doing. Flexpool was already doing this. It's one of the things I liked about them because you could control how much of your fees went to these transaction fees. In other words, you could wait until you got to, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 Ethereum so that your percentage of the of how much you're paying versus how much Ethereum you were transacting was lower. Plus, you could set what that effective gas fee was. Back then it was like 80 to 100 was good. Now we're talking much smaller than that. So a lot of things go into play. What I find interesting with all of this is I truly believe, because gas fees are so low, I believe that transaction fees are going to go up. And this is going to be the biggest shock to people transacting in this. We're actually going to see the transaction fees go up. Could be wrong, but I'm really curious to see where the transaction fees end up with all of this. Anyway, just my 2 cents. So let's see here. Hey, Red Panda, how you doing? All right, well, hey, yeah, keep your eyes on the road. But thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Okay, so lastly, I guess we kind of talked about 1559 a bit, but I didn't get into the last thing. So where is our profits going? So again, the transaction fees, the average transaction fees over the last month have been 0.45. And then MEV has been 0.06. So the average is about 2.51 has been the total reward. So you have the block reward of 2, you have the MEV of 0.06, and then the 0.45 of transaction fees. So where is it going to go once 1559 kicks in? Well, now you take the transaction fees away, and you leave the MEV, that still stays there, but you now have the miner tip, and the estimate for the miner tip is going to be 0.03. It might be higher, might be lower. It's really hard to model it to say exactly what it's going to be, but the going consensus prior to 1559 going live is somewhere in the range of 0.03 Ethereum per block will be related to that inclusion fee. It's called inclusion fee. Everybody still calls it miner tip. And I know that Mike is actually trying to get it changed to priority fee, to basically call it what it is. It's a priority fee. It's where do you want to be in the block? Do you want to be a higher priority? You want to make sure you go through on this block? That is what it is. And it's actually a auction-based system within 1559. And a lot of people are kind of wondering, how is this different? You just have an auction system based inside of 1559 with the base fee. Here's the difference. The base fee changes based upon the demand. So if the demand is very high, yes, people will initially put a higher priority fee in or inclusion fee in, but then the base fee will go up. And people will be like, oh, wait a minute, that's getting a little too high. So people will put in their transaction what they believe that they're willing to pay for that with the inclusion fee and the base fee combined. If it goes above that, they won't transact. So that's where the base fee comes into play and where it can reduce the inclusion fee if the base fee goes up. So it's going to be interesting. Trouble is that I don't think all wallets are ready for this. There were some comments made that a lot of wallets aren't ready for it. Some exchanges may not be ready for it. I know that MetaMask appears to be ready for it. They actually came out and said, hey, we want to get on the test net and make sure this all works. But there has been some concern that I've heard talked about that some aren't ready. There's been some, I mean, while it's work without it, it's just a matter of it's not taking advantage of the benefits of the London fork in 1559 if you don't make changes. But you can still work within the old system. So again, we'll kind of have to wait and see as to how it all pans out. All right, looks like you guys are having fun in the chat. Let me catch up a little bit here. Okay. It's half the entertainment trying to watch a face slip. Not sure. Am I having a stroke? I hope not. Anyway, let's see here. Let me see if I can scroll up, see if there were any other questions. I don't see any. And I've certainly kept you guys longer than I had intended. Before I let you guys go, any other last minute questions? So I got to go to bed soon. I got to get up early tomorrow. I have to leave for work at 4 a.m. in the morning. Not looking forward to that. Yeah, definitely possible. I haven't been watching the weather much lately, but yeah, I know that there's been some issues with flooding in Texas. Thanks, Anonymous Miner. I appreciate it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see what happens. I mean, this is why it's important to make sure that you're on mining pools that are ready. You want to make sure that they're in fact going to pay out. I mean, there's some mining pools that still aren't doing MEV, and I believe that they've lost some of their hash rate as a result. But you know, yeah, you want to make sure that you're on a reputable one. It's where I really like the fact that Ethermine came out and said exactly what they're doing and that they're ready. That's who I'm currently mining on. I have mined on Flexible in the past. I've been happy with them as well, but just made a personal decision to move to Ethermine at the time, so that's where I'm at. We were talking about chum change slipping on the face. Okay, I guess I'll have to ask him about that later. Anyway. Yes, ungodly hour to start work. Yeah, I have to be there at 4:30 to open up the doors and let everybody in. And we have OT because we got busy day. So yeah, everybody starts work at 5 a.m. So the reason why I have to do it is because my second shift person is out. So my first shift person is going to be doing a long shift in order to cover it. But most likely, I will probably have to open up again on Tuesday because I got to let my first shift guy that's working late get some sleep. So it'll be Monday and Tuesday most likely that I'll be opening up early, and then I can go back to being at work at 7 a.m. It'll be such a nice change. MEV, that is very cute, is front running. Yeah, it's front running. That is correct. And I'm not making any judgments about MEV, but yeah, it's I guess I could make it kind of like going to Best Buy and having somebody cut in line. Hey, this is a great idea. I'm going to go get 3 GPUs. And somebody went, you're going to do what? Oh, wow. I am going to get ahead of you by paying just a little bit more to be in the right position in line to get ahead of you. And so, yeah, there's definitely some ethical arguments about why MEV is not a good thing. I don't have any control over that. All I can do is maybe go on a pool that doesn't have MEV, I suppose. But those are so far and few between at this point. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. And there's a lot of things that have happened with MEV. Front runners have actually partnered with mining pools now to make sure they get in the right spot. So mining pools are only getting a portion of the total. They're not stealing from the front runners anymore. They are just partnering with the front runners. So, but the front runners are still stealing it away from the guys that had the initial idea in the first place. So, for those people that don't know, front running basically is looking at what BBT's talked about this quite a bit. You have the mempool, which some people call, I guess, what I've heard people mention is the dark forest. The mempool contains all proposed transactions. They haven't made their way into a block yet. And these front runners are constantly evaluating these transactions. And when they evaluate some of these transactions, they go, wow, that's a great idea. That's extremely profitable. I'm going to do that, but I got to get ahead of this guy so I can be profitable. That's what's happening. They're getting ahead of other people that have the idea to do this transaction and basically stealing their idea and profiting themselves. And they have to partner with a mining pool to make sure they get placed in the right spot ahead of the other guy in the block. So that's the short story of how front running works. Yeah, Vincent, it sounds like you know a lot more about this than I do. And you can tell by what I'm talking about. I know the basics. I don't know all the details of how it works, but yeah, I don't disagree with you that it's a sort of stealing somebody's idea. It's not directly stealing money, but it's almost like somebody has this idea and it's almost like a copyright or a trademark. How do you do this? I mean, if you have somebody doing an arbitrage on the stock market, that trade goes through immediately. They're trying to beat somebody else that might have the same idea, but nobody else can see that transaction until it actually hits the market. So it's secret until it's transacted. In this case, that's not happening. It's in the mempool first so that everybody can see it. So yeah, sorry, I've already gone way too far into this than I wanted to, but yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. Yeah, I will. Yeah, Vincent. Yeah, it sounds like you got a lot of knowledge on this. I don't. Like I said, I know the basics, but if I'm misspeaking, I apologize. Yeah. Yeah, it is a probability of one. I get that. It's people have the ability to make sure that they basically steal somebody else's transaction. I get it. Oh, I'm just chatting. Okay, no. That's good. I appreciate the feedback and the information. So, but yeah, yeah, this is definitely a topic for another day. But definitely appreciate you being here. That's definitely some great information. Yeah, feel free to reach out. One of the things I did want to mention was, where did I get some of that information on the Best Buy drop? I very tuned in, obviously, with Misfit Mining Discord. Definitely suggest everybody to join the Misfit Mining Discord. If you want to drop a link to an invite, chump change, feel free. So definitely a great place. It's basically where I spend a majority of my time when I'm on Discord. So I definitely enjoy the community there. The community is great. The community is appreciative of the information that's provided by everybody. Whether it be just people that are members that have information, or any of the founders, or any of the other people such as me that have become more involved. We enjoy helping others, and it's just been a great community. What did CC say? I see Tekshinji said, yeah, CC, do your thing. I must have missed his comment. Oh, I see. Yeah, don't do that, Tekshinji. That's chump change. Thanks, chump change. I appreciate it. CC is the other guy, who we know is another name. But at any rate, or the Awesome Queen, either one. Other one. Either of you can post the link to the Discord if you have the ability. But I will probably add it, if I can figure out how, to the description so that people are watching this in tape will be able to find the link to it. So anyway, thank you guys all for coming. I appreciate you guys staying. And you guys all have a good rest of your Sunday.